Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Another podcast, a visual podcast. It's been a few months since we did the player pathway, college pathway podcast. So this one kind of brought about by a couple of my players in clinics, and I kind of wanted to. This all that I'm going to go into applies on pretty much every single level, but I'm just going to kind of go through my experience a little bit. Got the question kind of what was it like? What did it feel like when you played maybe a top, ranked number one singles D1 player or a guy who had some ATP points? Kind of what was that feeling like versus maybe somebody that was at your level or, in that range? And it kind of got me reminiscing back to some matches where, you know, um, I like to think I played pretty well, but, obviously there's always somebody better. Where I'm playing somebody who's playing number one at Columbia or number one at George Washington, or a guy that has ATP points, or another guy that's got was number three on the D2 national championship team, kind of all in their meat and potatoes of their tennis career, like I was, but just obviously not as good as those guys. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like when I played guys like that, it's basically every ball I hit had to have a purpose, right? So when you're playing, your own matches too, it's the same kind of concept. Like if I don't hit, like every single ball I hit has got to have a purpose. It's got to be penetrating. It's got to be in corners. It can't be really hanging in the middle, because then players that are like at that level, you just feel that pressure of like, you know, I'm just going to get eaten alive here. If I leave even like a 75% ball just sort of hanging in the middle, they're going to step in. Even if it's not a bad ball, in my opinion, they would just kind of take that ball and just like rope a winner up the line, where maybe somebody who's more, your level or was my level, and you could feel a little bit more comfortable kind of in the rallies, where these players, it was just like every single ball had to have a purpose and had to be almost like close to your best shot, even if it's just a rally ball, because of the pressure that the quality of their shots put on you. So that's kind of the feeling that I always had in those situations. And feeling like it's almost like mentally tough, because you feel like I hit a bunch of good balls in that rally, and they basically didn't really affect them. Like it just was neutral. It wasn't like it was penetrating or pushing them off. Like my 10 out of 10 shot was basically just like a neutral ball. And even my like 8 out of 10 shot, they could step in and attack. So the quality of shot had to be like very high, pretty much shot in and shot out. Even kind of like goes, onto the serve part of it too, off, instead of just ground strokes. Like, if you're serving, you feel that pressure of like their quality returns all the time. They're basically right at your feet. Like you can't really get on top of the point like you would against somebody maybe at your level or close to it. It's just like your serve, maybe your best serve is just not really bothering them to the same degree it would another player. And basically, like you're not getting any free points off your serve. So, as you get better and you play in college levels and higher than that, it's free points and kind of getting ahead in points off your serve if you have a good serve is like paramount. So, I mean, I can think of matches where it's like, man, I'm just like not getting anything free off this guy. This guy's putting returns back deep every single time. It's like I'm landing and then the ball's at my feet and I'm like fighting a ball off just to kind of stay in the point where, maybe another guy, I have a ball that's sitting up in the middle, I can step in and just like attack. So just the constant pressure of like quality returns and not getting free points and like getting the returns back deep too. It's just that constant pressure. This kind of like gets me thinking back in my memory bank to all these matches and stuff. Kind of piggybacking off that point. I mean, I summer like tournament men's open. I think I played a kid who played one or two at GW, um, which is a really solid program. But I remember the first or second service game I had in the match. I came out and I was just like bombing serves. Like I was hitting, 120-mile-an-hour first serves, like into tough spots, which I thought was, good serving. The game was still back and forth deuce. And I don't think I missed the first serve, maybe one in the game. And, he was putting returns, like getting everything back, making me work for points. And eventually I got broken. I remember I just like came back, sat down to changeover, like toweling off, and just kind of looked up and was like, I can't serve any better than that. It was like, how did I get broken in this game? I just basically served almost as good as I could. And I was still at a point where it was like 3 or 4 deuces, and I still ended up getting broken. And I'm just like hitting first serves like as almost as hard as I could to like corners, and balls just coming back. So it's just, even when you're playing your best, it's still sometimes it's not enough against players that are like a notch or two above. And that's just sort of the way it goes. Sort of, another match I thought of was I played another summer tournament in between like college seasons against a guy who would play number 3 for the team that like just won the D2 national championship. So this was probably in like a July tournament, and he's like winning the national championship playing 3 like 2 months ago in May. So like the peak of like this guy's ability. And it was a similar feeling where I'm just like, man, I'm grinding here. Like I'm making deep balls. Like I'm working hard. Like I'm playing solid points. But it was just at any point in the match or in the rally, like even if I think, oh wow, that was a pretty good ball, just step in and just take the ball down the line for a winner. And it's not even like I felt like I played badly. And I'm like, oh, what did I really do wrong in that match? Like it's sort of, those are almost easier to deal with in a way, because you're like, I just kind of did what I could, and the guy was you know just taking balls up the line that I thought were like pressure balls, and he's just making it seem like it wasn't even bothering him. So that's a guy that's literally one of the top players in the country, winning a D2 team title, playing 3. But also in the other side of it, not like number 1 at like Virginia or Texas. So you realize the levels of everything. It's pretty crazy. He may feel the same way if he played a guy who was ranked. That player plays a guy who's ranked like 500 in the world. The way I felt against him, where I'm like, nothing I'm doing here is like causing a lot of problems, and if I don't hit my best shots or my best ball, it's just getting put in corners and I'm on the run. So, um, had another match, kind of all back in the memory bank here. Played indoor hard court in between fall and spring season. Played the number 1 kid at Columbia back in like 2012. Um, got a few games, like maybe 6-1, 6-1 or something. I don't know. But it was just like one of those same feelings of like, I used to love playing on indoor hard court. I mean, I grew up playing on it a lot. My game style suited it, like 1-2 punch, like hit big serves, hit big forehands from the middle, try to dictate play. But this guy was just better than me at that, right? So like, if I'm not getting the return at his feet, same deal. He's stepping in, dictating play off the first ball, and I felt like, again, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could play a little better, but in retrospect, I'm like, all right, I played a guy who was just better than me. He's playing number 1 at Columbia. They're Ivy League, and it's one of those things where, like I said, I like to think I played at a pretty good level, but you kind of face those players, and even with you guys or whatever, if you're whatever level you're playing at, team tennis, recreational tennis, you face those players sometimes, and you're just like, well, back to the drawing board, because it's like I'm doing what I do and I'm trying to play my game style. Sometimes they're just like a notch or two better than you at the exact same things that you're trying to do. That's what this kid was trying to do. Fast indoor hard court, hitting big serves. If I'm leaving the return kind of short, he's just stepping in and just cranking a winner. So, and then if I were to try to do that again, it's like not affecting him in the same way that it would maybe somebody who is, more towards my level, where I'm able to dictate that, or he can, get the return back deep where I'm in neutral, even if I hit a good serve. So it's just, again, the quality of like balls that you have to hit against the players that are a notch or two above you. It's like relentless pressure, because you just can't sort of just put the ball on the court when you can get away with that a little bit more, versus, players hovering in your level range. So, another kind of last example was, I was playing when I was at Sacred Heart, playing a guy like 2 at NJIT. I remember before the match, he had like ATP points, couple ATP points. So he's gotten wins in the Futures Tour, which is the lowest level of pro tennis, but still playing like top of the lineup at a really good D1 team. Albeit not nationally ranked, but still a really high level. And early on, I felt like I was kind of in there, and it was like, okay, if I just keep playing this level, I could actually maybe kind of sneak in this, maybe sneak a set. And after the first like 4 or 5 games, this guy just completely turned it up. So that sometimes happens too, where, you feel like, okay, I'm in here, like this guy's good, or I can at least hang around here, and then they sort of just take it up to another level after a few games, and it was almost like that was the warm up, and you're just like, okay, 3 games ago you weren't taking that ball and just hitting a 100-mile-an-hour forehand up the line. You were just kind of like rallying back cross court here. So that's in that case, I was like, oh, this is why this guy has ATP points, because I'm hitting in the first few games like he's just sort of massaging the ball, like working the point, and then all of a sudden the rest of the match, it's just like that same ball in the first couple games is just being just roped up the line for a winner. And I'm not even saying it's like a shot that I'm like hitting badly or too short. That goes without question. But even a shot that's like pretty decent is getting kind of taken to school, on a good rally ball. So like all those different matches, and I'm sure I'm missing other ones come to mind where you just sort of feel like I'm going to go out here and just swing away, and it's freeing in a way because the pressure's off, sort of, where you're just like, all right, I'm going to go swing away and like let's see what happens here. But a lot of the times you kind of walk off saying like, this player is just better than me. I mean, there wasn't much more that I could have done. Like even if I played at my 90th percentile, another 10% is not going to get me over the hump against this player. So, that just kind of reaffirms the fact that, all right, just got to keep working on my game, trying to get up to that level. And look, there's always going to be somebody better than you pretty much at any point in time, unless you're like Alcaraz, who is number one in the world. But at any point in time, there's always going to be somebody who's setting the bar higher. So in a lot of those situations and a lot of those matches, it's really just about like what can you pick up out of them. Maybe you don't even sit there and go like, I didn't do a lot wrong here. Like I'm not going to change much just because of that result, but I just got to keep working and keep trying to, get my game up to another level. So again, if I played somebody who was more at my level, it was more like in that range, even like slightly higher. It's like I can get away with, kind of not just like putting the ball in the court, but sort of, working the point a little bit, being patient, sort of just grinding and playing rallies, or just even like getting them on their heels more with like my ball and my serve. Versus the guys like that I kind of alluded to before, where it's like I'm just not getting the same traction. I'm not really able to dictate, and you can kind of sink your teeth into the match a little bit more with players that are kind of like, even with you slightly below or slightly above. The ones that are just like out of reach, like those are you just do what you can, those kind of matches, and the ones that are super below are the ones that are just kind of boring. And you're not going to get a ton out of those. But the ones that are sort of like even with your level, slightly below or slightly above, those are the ones you really want to kind of grade yourself on. But again, you're kind of more allowed to play your game because you don't feel like I have to do so much and be like Superman to try to even hang in this match. I can kind of just play my game. And obviously, like strategies are different for every kind of matchup, but you can sort of play your game more with not feeling like I have to be so far out of what I normally do to even try to impact this match. So, um, it's sort of, I like to kind of dictate points when I could, especially on the quick surfaces. And, if it was somebody who was like, again, in that range, I could kind of do that a little bit more and try to play the patterns that I know I liked to play versus the guys that are way above. You're sort of, okay, we could hit up the middle and it would look like we're like similar level. But once you start getting playing and stuff, you're just like, wow, this guy is just turning this thing up a few notches, and just my ball is not bothering him like it would normally somebody kind of in my level range. So kind of just wanted to reminisce a little bit, and had some players ask about the experiences with that. And honestly, this applies to like any kind of level: junior tennis, high school, team tennis, as an adult, rec tennis. Like you're going to run into those players who are just a little bit too strong, or a little too weak, and then the ones right in the middle is where you kind of is going to grade yourself on. But playing those matches was a little eye opening, because you're like, oh, I thought I played well, but now I'm running into this player who just kind of humbled me a little bit. And it's good in a way because it kind of shows you where you kind of want to strive to get to. But I remember a lot of those, and it's still great experience. But yeah, you kind of know when it's maybe not going to be your day, despite all your efforts. So appreciate you guys tuning in on this one, and hopefully we'll be back on soon.